welcome to another episode of In Depth and Out Loud with me, Dubbz. So today, very excited because we're going to be chatting to Heidi, Chief Marketing Officer, and very interesting journey where she actually started in nursing and now she's in the creative space. And I think this is the right conversation if you are a marketing student or you're in branding, but also if sometimes you feel like you're not sure about exactly what you want to do, and if it's something that you do want to pursue in the future, and it's okay to change your mind. So I'm really excited that Heidi is here today to share her journey with us as well. Heidi, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Dubbz. Lovely to be with you.
So I just want us to start with your journey, of course, of where you are now, and you've dabbled through a couple of different industries, and you started with nursing.
Yeah.
And now you're in the creative space. Take us through that journey.
Well, I mean, I think the first thing is we were chatting before we started to record, is that it's hard to know what you want to be when you're 16 and 17. Actually, younger, when you have to choose subjects.
Yeah.
Very difficult, and you have to try things and see how they feel and see if they fit you and so on. I mean, I laugh actually. I got an E for science in matric. I got a BSc degree, so don't let that dissuade you. But I got an A for English, which must kind of give you an indication that maybe this creativity world of words is a space for me.
Yeah.
I did a BSc in nursing, and I'll tell you how I ended up there. I was going to do occupational therapy because it was a mixture of like science and art.
Yes.
And I was filling in my form at my parents' dining room table one Sunday. My parents had visitors for tea. And the visitor lady said, "What are you doing?" And I told her. And she said, "Oh, my daughters are doing BSc nursing. They do the same first 2-year subjects as the OTs." And I said, "Oh, there's a BSc in nursing." And I took my pen, it's tucked away here somewhere. I took my pen and scribbled out OT and put nursing. Because my gut just said, give that a try.
Wow.
And so that's how I did it. And I loved it. It was a 5-year degree. It was hectic. I delivered babies, worked in mental homes, all sorts of things. Taught me many things: empathy, preparedness, multidisciplinary teams.
Yeah.
And following that was a series of pivots. The public health was going down. It was hard to enjoy working in a sector that wasn't getting funded. And I went into pharma market research. Then I went into general market research. Then I went into brand market research, and then into having a brand of my own in my hands. So it was a series of little pivots. It wasn't like, oh, I was delivering babies and
then you jumped
delivering brands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But how did the love for marketing and branding happen? I mean, did it just creep up on you one day, or I just
if I think back,
I'm so fascinated.
I remember driving in the car with my dad. He was driving, so I was clearly under 18.
Yeah.
I was. And I remember saying on the radio there was an ad playing, and I remember saying, "I love that ad. Wasn't it fabulous?" He didn't say anything, and about 5 minutes later he said, "What was that an ad for?" And I couldn't remember. And he said, "So, was that a good ad or not?" And it's funny because I remember that so clearly as being, maybe the first time I was conscious of being interested in that. But, when I worked in pharma market research, I worked for a big multinational. I like to say I ran their market research department. I was the only one in the market research department, so I was very powerful. But I worked with all the marketing managers who at the time, and in fact I think they still are in pharma, called product managers, not brand managers. Today we call them brand managers. And I used to sit in their offices, and I remember sitting across the way from the most wonderful woman called Desiree Bierman across her desk, and she was the product manager of an antibiotic called Dalacin C. I mean, how dull can it be, really? And behind Desiree was this pin board of all of her cool stuff that she'd done with this antibiotic, only marketable to doctors.
Yes.
And I remember being conscious of thinking, one day, I want to love a brand as much as Desiree loves Dalacin C. I just knew that I wanted to hold a brand in my hands and love it.
Wow. That is so incredible. But you have a nickname.
I do.
What is it?
They call me the brand mama.
Brand mama. How did that come about? I love it.
It was such a sweet thing. I was mentoring a young man who was developing a line of such cool South African T-shirt, a range of South African T-shirts. And he said, what do I call you? Like, what are you, a marketing consultant? It was between Kalula and Hollard. And I said, oh, consultant, that's such a terrible word. It doesn't sound like friendly and warm or anything. He said, no, I know what you are. You're a brand mama. That's what you do. You help grow brands. I was like,
Exactly.
and it stuck.
I love it, brand mama. So you've worked in many different industries, but how do you change marketing strategies when moving from one field to another, like your insurance, airline, marketing?
You know, the first time the opportunity came to switch categories, I was a little anxious. And then I realized, you know that CEOs do it all the time.
Yes.
CEOs take their talent of being a CEO and the skills they have, and they can switch into different sectors. So marketers can do that too, because actually the gifts that you bring are your understanding of brands and the discipline of marketing. Then you learn the category and the sector. And I think that that's another gift that you bring, is a fresh look from outside, that you can be a protagonist and you can challenge and you can say, what about what if? Those fresh eyes, I call it sometimes, I say, I come with intelligent naivety, like a little bit dumb about the category, but smart about my discipline. And that's a precious thing to bring. So, you know, I switched from airlines to insurance. The first thing I did was download the actuarial glossary on my phone so that I could speak a bit of actuary. And I learned the business of their business, but brought them my deep skills as a marketer.
Yeah.
So you can.
You can, absolutely. And I think in any industry it happens. I mean, it's the same thing with broadcasting, with hosting. You get to do, sometimes it's lifestyle, sometimes it's hectic stuff like accounting, and you need to then get into that mode and learn now about that subject, but still applying the same kind of principles, I'd imagine, right?
Correct.
So what do successful marketing campaigns in different industries have in common, would you say?
The thing that they have is that they understand the business objectives. And that's their guiding light. And they have a great partnership with their creative agency, because it is difficult to raise a brand child. And you have to have great partnerships as a team.
Where do you find inspiration to create something incredible, something amazing? In fact, you can share with us a story when you created something and you just looked at it and you thought, this is absolutely amazing. And you almost felt like giving yourself a gold star. You know, that moment?
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I find inspiration everywhere. I'm blessed to be able to get to travel a bit.
Yeah.
But it doesn't even have to be to travel far. It can be up the road to Rosebank Mall. Sometimes I come, my husband says, please just get out of here. Go somewhere, because I know you need it. And I can just wander around Rosebank, and I'll come home and he'll say, why haven't you bought anything? But you look happier. I need the stimulation of seeing what people are doing, what they're buying, how they're dressing, what's in the windows. So for me, I need, and I love the stimulation of seeing what's happening out there. I love theatre, movies, dance. I do ballet as a hobby.
Oh, that's so nice.
No,
I did ballet when I was a kid.
Oh no, me too.
Ballet is a happy place,
it's a
isn't
bit
it?
yeah, and it's a bit different when you're not a kid. It's much less competitive. It's much more fun. But going to the theatre, going to see what's possible, really inspires me such a lot, because it's superhero movies are my best, because superheroes are all about can if, not can't because.
True.
I mean, anything is possible.
True.
So I love the stimulation of seeing what other people are doing and finding ways to inject that into the world that I live in. And then you asked, where have I been proud of and a gold star? I'm blessed to say there are a lot of things, some big, some small.
Okay.
But the funnest, is that a word? I think Americans use funnest, maybe, was in 2010 when we did an amazing campaign for Kalula with the World Cup. And we got into big trouble because there were so many rules. FIFA said, you can't say World Cup, you can't say soccer, you can't use a vuvuzela, you can't. It was ridiculous.
Sure. Lots of rules.
So many rules. And actually South Africans were annoyed because we were supposed to get an injection of economic upliftment in the country because of it.
Exactly.
But we weren't allowed to do a whole lot of things. So Kalula and our ad agency at the time, King James, now Accenture Song, put this beautiful hand-illustrated one-page ad in the Sunday Times that said, we really like put our tongues firmly in our cheeks and said things like, not this year, not next year, somewhere in between, because you couldn't say 2010.
Oh,
We drew golf tees, but they were vuvuzelas. We really had a cheeky time of it. And
that sounds incredible.
it was fantastic. There's great source material online, you'll find it. And we put it in the Sunday Times, 1 page, 1 day, it's all we could afford. And a couple of days later, I was driving home, and the lawyer from Comair phoned me, Kathleen, and I heard her say, Heidi, it's Kathleen. What have you done? And I was like, yes, I've done something. Because FIFA had phoned to say, oh. But actually we knew, we pushed that's what Kalula did. Kalula respected everybody, but was a challenger brand and pushed everything right to the edge, but not over the edge.
Not over the edge, just a little bit.
And we were world famous, this little airline at the tip of Africa.
So when you're creating like a marketing plan, you need to obviously have the customer in mind at all times.
Yeah.
How do you do this? And I'm also imagining that customer feedback plays quite a role when you're now coming up with a marketing plan to say, okay, this feedback is actually incredible. Have you ever had a moment where feedback really, really played a big role in your marketing plan for a campaign that you worked on?
Yeah, and I think feedback comes in different forms. Feedback comes in making sure that the room of people that are creating the piece of communication doesn't only look like me or only look like you. It looks like a mixture of us.
Correct.
I'm older than a lot of people that are in the room. So we have to make sure that we have representativity and we enable voices to be heard.
Yes.
Because there are lots of lapses and things that have gone wrong just because there are not enough voices. So that's one thing, is the informal way of making sure that we listen. And then I'm a passionate supporter of market research. I spent 15 years in it. And I don't know how you do anything without data. I don't know how you plan anything without data. I don't know how you track anything without data. And I'll give you a story. When I joined Kalula, my darling, I adore him to this day, CEO Gideon Novik, who took a real chance on me, because like, what did I know?
We love those ones that give us a chance.
Absolutely,
you know what I mean?
absolutely. And I learned so much from him, with him. And I said to him just before I started, I said, just by the way, I'm going to be spending quite a big amount of money on a piece of market research. I need to understand where the brand is positioned vis-a-vis the competitors. And he said, don't worry, Heidi, I'll tell you. I said, no, I need more than a sample of one.
Ooh.
And actually, thank goodness we did that, because what had happened was Kalula had been copied. You know, when you're a pioneer, people say, oh,
there's copycats around.
let's copy.
Yeah.
And Kalula, without getting into statistical dingle-dangles, but Kalula was sort of hovering in nowhere land because everybody had grabbed its positioning.
True.
Mango, One Time, Nationwide, all of them. And if we didn't know that, we wouldn't have been able to do the incredible work that we then did with the agencies and the brand team to reclaim a positioning. So,
Wow.
so formal, informal, and listening, you know.
I like that you speak of market research and how important it is to have data.
Yeah.
Does that also help you kind of stay ahead of changes, like your consumer behavior change? You know how sometimes I'm just completely different, and also combining that with customer loyalty.
Yeah. So you know, you have to combine. I used to say that you need to do two things. You need to have market research is looking in the rearview mirror. Market research will tell you what's already happened, that you can do something with. And like this gigantic light in front of me, you need a crystal ball. I wish you could see it, because it really is a gigantic crystal ball. You need both. You need a history book and a crystal ball. You need to do both of the things at the same time. And when we talk about loyalty, we must measure also and understand the drivers of customer engagement, because there are too many assumptions made. I've done enough market research amongst customer groups to understand. I have seen so many cases where brand owners believe that loyalty comes because price is low.
Yeah.
I have never seen a piece of research where price is a driver of behavior. Never, ever, ever.
True.
So you need the data to help you predict the future with your crystal ball whilst looking in the rearview mirror and juggling all the balls that are going on around you.
And to understand the behavior that can change.
Correct, it does. But there's some fundamentals that don't change.
Yeah.
People do want value for money.
All the time.
But a Mercedes is also good value for money. It's expensive.
Yeah.
But if you're in the luxury car market, Mercedes, BMW, Lamborghini, I don't
Audi.
know, Audi, they're all pricey. But they are value for money if you are in that market.
100%.
So we've got to be so careful not to just to dismiss some things. People want the same things. They want good quality, value for money, and they'll balance that against price.
Yeah.
These days, they want companies to be ethical and responsible. And those are fundamentals that don't change. And they want you to do what you're going to say you're going to do. That's what a brand is.
Yeah.
A promise made and a promise kept.
Ooh, absolutely.
And that's less easy than we think.
What does leadership in marketing mean to you, and how do you keep your team motivated, to have the gees to create beautiful things?
This thing popped in my head now. I heard an American once say, you have to keep the main thing the main thing. And I feel like that's my job, has been my job as a marketing leader for the longest time, is to help people keep on track, on purpose, on strategy. Because that's really what we have to do. We can descend right down into the creative. So many marketers in teams, whether I've coached them or I've been leading them, will send me a piece of creative and say, what do you think? I can't tell you what I think unless I know what the main thing is. What's the communication objective of that? So that's the first thing, helping everybody keep the main thing the main thing. The second thing is making sure that my agencies, my people in my team, whether they're juniors or seniors, all understand the business objectives.
Yeah.
So that we are all serving the same thing, really, and having fun, because it's very hard, and talking to each other, spending time and talking to each other and getting to know, because the creative sector is hard. Imagine if I sent you an email and said, I like this protea, but I'd prefer if it was more, I can't really say what it is. I just, maybe a little pinker or less pink or pinkish. It's pinkish, but it's not. Creativity is a very difficult thing to express.
It is.
And we need to build relationships so that we can do that.
Let's talk about awards, which you've had plenty of. Which award meant the most to you? And would you say, getting these awards, because of your hard work and of course tenacity and just your creative ability, do you think it has an impact on how you now do your work, or not quite? It's just a thing of, I did well.
It's such a hard thing, because I spend a lot of time volunteering to judge awards because I learn so much from them. I am worried that as an industry, as a sector, we, especially the ad agency space, worries too much about awards and are driven too much by awards rather than serving business objectives. However, I have been heard to say, when looking at an idea, I think this is Lurie worth or Canworth, because I know that it motivates people. So it is exciting to win. I'm not driven by that. I'm driven by, and I tell you, it does help when you say to your CEO, who's typically an accountant or an actuary, we won this thing. It's really great.
On CV, these things look good.
They look
good.
good.
If I come to you looking for a job and I tell you all these awards that I've won,
you just got to be careful that you again keep the main thing the main thing. You're not doing it to win awards. You're doing it to serve a business objective, because building a business is good for society, good for communities. There's a purpose behind it. The best one, I think, was winning a couple, including a Grand Prix for the slow loungers. Why? Because we reinvented such an awful category.
Wow.
And that was super special.
I almost feel like we need that applause thing, just as you said that, woo, 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 woo.
Me too.
Or vuvuzela.
And I wore such a nice dress that night.
Lovely. So for students who want to get into marketing, what kind of skills or experiences do you think now are mostly needed in this industry?
I tell you what I think, do you have to be creative? No, because there's lots of creative people who are going to surround you and help you. It helps if you have some sort of expression of creativity or understanding of it. But I think the thing you need most, and I'm going to look you straight in the eye when I said this, I say this, is you need to be able to speak business, because it's easier for you to learn business than to expect the CA or actuary to learn to speak marketing. You can control your ability to speak business. And I think that's what's missing. More and more now in this phase of my career where I'm consulting and coaching, I'm realizing that the hurdles that marketers are facing are because business people don't understand marketing enough. Mm-hmm. And we have to get ourselves to the table where we can understand the business of the business and solve business pains, and we'll be taken more seriously. So numbers are not my favorite thing, but I can do it because I must.
You can do it because you must. In fact, I always say that in a job, even if you're passionate, I'm passionate about broadcasting, but there are things in broadcasting that are a bit like, oh.
Yeah.
But you have to do it.
Right.
So it's not going to be like everything is amazing, everything is fun, right?
Exactly.
But what I also want to tap into, I mean, especially for the student, is sometimes you get into a career and sometimes it doesn't go as planned. So can you share with us a moment where something didn't go as planned in your career earlier on when you started, and how did you overcome that?
I think I've always trusted my gut. And in fact, I decided this morning I'm going to create a little talk on trusting your gut, because your gut is the sum of your experiences, really. And we don't respect that enough. I've had a few where I feel like if it was a cartoon, a speech bubble thinking bubble would have popped up next to my head saying, I'm bored. I had that once after a dozen years at Mark & Orr doing research. Really? And I knew the time came to change. It wasn't that it wasn't going well, it was just being conscious of the fact that my time doing this was up. I did have a time where I joined a company not knowing that they were going through corporate activity, i.e. merger and acquisition. What a miserable place it was. It will go unnamed. And I literally had migraines every day. Bad, 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 bad. And I had to call it. I had to choose.
Yeah.
And it resulted in me being doing sort of part-time work for a while. Timing was great. My husband was retrenched at the same time, and we had 2 little babies. But you just
go with your gut.
Go with your gut, and you do what's right for your happiness at that time. But most importantly, to listen to how you feel.
I think that happens a lot of the time, and that's just the reality, where you'll come into a place and you're really happy and you're excited and you think, oh my word, this is it. Yeah. And 3 years down the line, you're like, no, it is not.
I always say, look, you take yourself with you
and you know when it's time to step out, isn't it?
Definitely. And you take yourself with you wherever you go. So you've got to make sure that, I always say content in context. It's you in a place. And sometimes you change and you need to find another place where you'll fit.
Yeah.
Or the place changes, or you and the place both change. And you have to ask yourself, is this me? Do I need to do some adjusting and then I'll land back in? Or are we like too far, like magnets that just won't land together again? But you must check before you blame, because sometimes it's some adjusting that you need to do.
That you also need to do.
Yeah.
True. But marketing is always changing, right?
Yeah.
What trends do you think are the biggest for young marketers at the moment?
Last week I was at a lot of industry functions, and if I heard AI one more time, I was going to put cotton wool in my ears, because I can't anymore. We get so caught up in the latest sexy tech trend. True. And I remember actually, it wasn't so long ago, a little more than 10 years ago, I was asked to write an article on the new media being digital.
Yes.
And I remember saying, it's going to take 5 minutes and we won't be calling it new media anymore. I think we have to be careful that we don't call enablers new trends. Like AI for me is an enabler.
Oh.
It's an enabler to help us get stuff done quicker, faster, smarter.
Yes.
It doesn't take the place of understanding audiences, doing brilliant creative, making sure you understand business objectives. So I'm very cautious about, I've been invited to write crystal ball stuff the future of, and what do you think the next trends are? I'm terrified of that. Because trends actually are a self-fulfilling prophecy. I remember once being at Design in Durban and listening to one of the great trends gurus, Lee Edelcourt, talking about grey is going to be the new black. And now if someone like Lee Edelcourt says grey is going to be the new black, believe me, every buyer is going to go and make sure that there's grey in their stores. 100%. And lo and behold, the self-fulfilling prophecy manifested. And whose house doesn't have grey in them?
Exactly.
Because my black tiles aren't black anymore. They are now grey. So I worry about it. I think we have to, again, we just have to remember the origin of what we're trying to do. In a world where almost everything is equal, where it is very hard to have a distinctive product, we have to build brands so that people can fall in love with them and choose them as a place to buy their apples rather than that place, or a place to buy their air ticket or their insurance or their banking or their cell phone, because we all sell the same as each other.
I'm going to ask you quick fire questions here. So it's just one phrase, one word. What's the best advice you've ever received?
Be yourself.
I like that one. One book that changed your perspective?
I actually bought them quickly so I can show you, because this is a visual thing.
Yeah.
There's two. This is a book called 100 Brand Failures. 100! He wrote a book on 100.
Wow.
You learn by other people's mistakes.
Marketers.
Fantastic book. I've had it for years. And the other one is this, Time to Think. This is as much about giving yourself time to think as about other people time to think. It's fantastic.
Love it. I'm actually going to check that out as well. One habit that contributes to your success?
Being positive. Being half full. I'm a half full person.
I think we all are a little bit. Eh? Best way to handle failure?
Carry on.
If you could time travel, what would you tell your younger self?
Be yourself.
Heidi, thank you so much for joining us. This has been amazing. It feels like it went by so quick.
But
all right, so there you have it. Be yourself at all times and stay on business, man. Once you enter that industry, stay on business. It's not just about the awards. That should not be your drive.